Well, time to talk to the Shadow Finance Minister, Katie Gallagher, to take us there. He was the Minister for Energy and Emissions Reduction on the fate of heavy industry under the government's plans.
Our government will always stand up for those traditional industries and their crucial role in underpinning our economy and reducing emissions. We won't be listening to gratuitous and fact-free criticisms of gas or carbon capture and storage and clean blue hydrogen. Our political opponents, who run hot and cold on gas and technologies like CCS, blue hydrogen and soil carbon, need to be clear on this issue.
Katie Gallagher, welcome to the program.
Good morning, David.
We're yet to see Labor's plan on how we get to that net zero by 2050. Are you prepared to be more ambitious than the government here?
Well, David, I think we need to understand what the government is actually doing. We don't know what the ambition of the government is. So I think what we've seen, 8 years, 3 Prime Ministers, 21 energy policies, and now we've got the Prime Minister trying to wrangle a last-minute deal with the National Party about what they actually stand for. So Labor will make our policies clear well before the election, we've said that, but the government needs to govern, they're in charge. They need to agree to net zero, they need to legislate that target, and they need to set medium targets. That is the minimum that the government should be doing.
Do you agree with business groups that a carbon price is actually the best way to get to net zero?
Well, I've seen some of that through the Business Council's report. They've got a view around things like the safeguard mechanism. We've made some announcements around our climate change policies, rewiring the nation. We've got community batteries, we've got programs for apprenticeships in renewable energy. So we've outlined those areas. We will be outlining our full suite of climate policies in the lead up to the election. But in the meantime, we need the government to do their job.
No, fair enough. But is some sort of carbon price an option for Labor?
David, we will outline our policies. We're looking at everything. We're looking at all of the information that's coming from all of the reviews. We're watching Glasgow, and we will announce our policies in the lead up to the election. You know, I think that's the responsible thing to do. We will have different components to those policies, but I'm not in a position this morning to let you know exactly what they are. We want to make sure the government does the job that it needs to do, that it has been avoiding for 8 years now. And what it's meaning is we're losing opportunities in jobs and investments, and we need to, they need to start doing it. I mean, this past week has sort of been just like such an eye-opener. We've had the Prime Minister, after doing nothing for 8 years, now trying to wrangle the National Party into telling him what he's allowed to say when he goes to Glasgow. That's the state of where we're at the moment, and we need the Prime Minister to take charge and make sure that when he goes to Glasgow, he's actually representing Australia in a very positive way about the action that needs to happen on climate change.
OK, look, I understand your criticism of the government here, but again, let me just get a sense of where Labor's thinking here. More than 30 countries have joined the US and the EU now in pledging to slash methane emissions by 30% by 2030. This is a pledge that John Kerry in the US has been pushing in the lead up to Glasgow. Do you think Australia should join that pledge?
Well, Chris Bowen is leading the policy work in this area. And again, David, I know it's not the answer you're looking for, but all of those matters are being worked on by Chris, and he will, and Albo will announce our climate change policy, including all the steps we'll need to reach net zero and any other medium-term targets
has it been
at that
settled
point
now,
in
or
time.
is it still being worked on, or is the plan settled?
Sorry, David, I just missed that.
Is the Labor plan settled, or is it still being worked on?
Look, there are elements that have been settled, and we've made a number of announcements, as I've just outlined, but there is work ongoing. I mean, we're a responsible opposition. We're going to be watching what happens at Glasgow. There is numerous reports that have been released in the last few weeks. We're taking that all on board. Chris is working with stakeholders, and we will have our policy ready in time for the election, David. I have no doubt about that.
All right, well, let's move to some other matters then. Your Labor colleague Anthony Byrne appeared before a corruption hearing in Victoria this week. He admitted to branch stacking, which is against party rules. He also admitted to using taxpayer-funded staff to engage in factional work. Now, that's a misuse of public resources. Why is he still in the Labor Party?
Okay, so let's have a look at this, David. When these issues arose about a year ago, Albo and Daniel Andrews intervened immediately in the Victorian branch. Effectively, the branch was suspended from operations. That has led to an IBAC inquiry. We've had some evidence provided, concerning evidence, I would say, during the week, and we now need to let those hearings go through to their conclusion. Anthony Byrne obviously has given that evidence. I saw that the Commissioner had actually acknowledged the honesty in his evidence and, that it had come at some cost to him. He stood back from his role on the PJCIS and is now on the backbench, and we will wait for the conclusion of those investigations before taking any further action. But Albo and Daniel Andrews intervened immediately in the Victorian branch to stop the behaviour that came to light during that 60 Minutes episode.
So that action they took after that 60 Minutes story, they immediately expelled Adam Somyurek from the Labor Party. He was caught on camera. Anthony Byrne wasn't caught on camera, but this week he's admitted to branch stacking and the misuse of taxpayer-funded staff. So why isn't there similar immediate action taken against him?
Well, I think in relation to Mr Somyurek, as you've outlined, there were other concerns raised, including the fact that he wanted to control the entire Victorian branch. So there was significant and swift action taken in relation to him.
So it's a question of scale, is it? If you do a lot of branch stacking, you get punted. If you do a little, it's okay?
No, that's not what I was saying. I was saying there were other concerns raised on tape by Mr Somyurek, and that action was taken. We now have the situation where Anthony Byrne last week gave evidence, and those hearings are ongoing. We are in the middle of a process. In fact, we're more likely at the beginning of a process that is going to go for some weeks. We have no understanding of where that's going to go.
What changes at the end of the hearings?
He's essentially in the dock providing evidence, and we need to wait for those investigations to conclude. And then the National Executive, under Anthony Albanese's instruction, will respond to any findings and recommendations there. But I would say, David, the swift action that's been taken in intervening in the Victorian branch, the contrast with Mr Morrison in terms of branch stacking allegations in Victoria and in New South Wales is stark.
Well, here you've got an admission,
Anthony Albanese took immediate action. OK,
but here you've actually got an MP admitting it. It's a little bit different to some of the cases in the Liberal Party. You can focus on that. But here you've got an MP who's admitted it. Just to be clear, are you saying that the action against Anthony Byrne will only come when IBAC has finished its hearings or finished its whole process?
Well, we need to allow the hearings to conclude, and in terms of recommendations and findings that IBAC comes up with, they will need to be acted upon. But it's not right while someone's in the dock providing evidence to provide a running commentary on it. Anthony Byrne is helping the Commission with its inquiry. It's right that we wait until that work is complete. And we respect the role of those corruption bodies. I mean, that's why we've been arguing for one nationally, David.
But it's unclear whether IBAC even has jurisdiction to make any sort of finding against a federal MP. So you might be waiting for nothing, ultimately. If he's made the admission of the wrongdoing, why can't action be taken?
Well, action has been taken, David. The branch
not against Anthony Byrne.
The branch has been suspended. He has lost his position on the PJCIS. He is sitting on the backbench, and there is these investigations ongoing. So there has been consequences. And again, Anthony Albanese has made his career out of fighting against poor practice in parties, in the Labor Party. He intervened in New South Wales, he intervened in Victoria. He has shown that he takes these matters seriously, and we will act on those findings and recommendations when they are handed down. One
other element of this, the IBAC hearing was told money raised at fundraisers was kept in a cupboard in Anthony Byrne's electorate office rather than being given to the ALP. It was then used to pay for dodgy memberships to stack branches. Now, this raises a few questions. One of them is whether these mystery donations were ever declared. Labor's been, of course, raising a lot of concerns about Christian Porter's mystery donors. Do you even know what's gone on here with Anthony Byrne and this mystery money?
Well, again, I think this goes to my point about why you don't provide a running commentary on evidence as it's coming in. I don't know is the honest answer to that, David.
So he could have mystery donors that haven't been declared, and you don't know. Are you going to try and find out? You're going to ask him?
Well, this is why we need to allow the hearings to be complete. I mean, this is why we have a corruption body in Victoria looking at these matters and investigating them. I am not investigating them. We need to allow that process to continue and to respect the role of that body and not to undermine its work.
Well, the federal corruption body that Labor wants, do you think it should be able to look at branch stacking?
Well, I think a corruption body by its nature, and we have outlined some principles about the corruption body that we would put in place, unlike Scott Morrison, who's promised one 1,000 days ago and hasn't put one in, and no wonder why that is. But the corruption body by its nature is to investigate, the use of taxpayers' funds and corrupt behaviour by public officials.
Stacking?
So, well, I mean, nobody tells a corruption body what they can and can't look into. The overarching job of a corruption body is to look at the conduct and behaviour, corrupt or otherwise, of public officials, MPs. We are arguing for parliamentarians to be covered by it, of course, and the use of public funds. Now, if that moves into some of the areas that you nominate, David, then you would imagine that's the corruption body doing its job.
A couple of other issues. New South Wales is dropping the requirement for fully vaccinated international arrivals to quarantine from November 1. Does Labor still think we need more quarantine facilities, or is that time past?
I think if you listen to the experts, and certainly those coming before my committee that I'm chairing into the COVID response, David, would say that some type of quarantine is probably going to be needed for some time. I think the shame of all of the lockdowns that we've been living under is it's been the failure of quarantine and the vaccine rollout that has led to the situation we're in today, where so many of us have been living under lockdown for months. So, our view is we should have been there 12 months ago. The fact is the government, for some reason, decided that it wasn't their responsibility and it was the states, and we've been left with these inadequate quarantine facilities. So we do believe that there is a need for purpose-built quarantine. And on that point of New South Wales sort of acting unilaterally, I mean, that just goes to show how, the failure of the federal government in any way to deliver a national response to COVID-19, that we just have states essentially trying to manage areas of Commonwealth responsibility and the Commonwealth's, out in the cold. And
on vaccinations, your hometown, Canberra, has done an amazing job leading the nation, leading the world, really, it looks like it. 99% of those over 12 have had one jab already. Does Labor still think everyone should get a $300 payment for having been vaccinated, or, again, has the time passed for that sort of incentive?
Well, I think, again, David, the idea around that was more into trying to drive some of that, vaccination rates up. I mean, that was the idea at the time when Anthony
Do we still need it,
raised it. Well, look, again, there's still pockets where the vaccination rates are incredibly low. Yeah,
but your plan was for everyone, $6 billion for everyone to get $300. Do we still need to do that?
I understand that. And look, I hope we don't need to do it and that we get the vaccination rates up where they need to be. I would say I saw an ad on TV last night incentivising vaccines. I know there's a number of workplaces that are offering $100 to get people to get the jabs. So there's no doubt that those kind of financial incentives work. But,
right now, would you say right now should the government offer $300 to everyone or not?
Look, I think probably the time has passed for that in the sense that our vaccination rates are getting higher, but I think there's no doubt financial incentives could have, potentially, if we'd had the supply, got our vaccination rates higher, faster. And that was always the aim of Labor's commitment in that regard, and our push to try and get people to roll up their sleeves, and particularly those who were concerned about it. There's no doubt that those financial incentives work.
All right, Katie Gallagher, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks very much, David.